So I wanted to come back a little bit and talk about the trade deal between U.S. and China. Xi Jinping and Trump are supposed to sign a phase one trade deal, which is wrapping up right now. But after that, there's going to be a phase two negotiation, which is going to be more focused on the structural issues. How long do you think this phase two thing is going to last? Do you think it's going to be resolved in a year or 2 years? It's going to be, I don't know, 10 years? Or is it going to be dragging on forever?
I think that what you mentioned as the structural issues, that China will never concede on those issues.
Mm-hmm.
They really can't, because that is their economic strategy. And they, as we were saying before, they have enough economic problems with a slowdown.
Mm-hmm.
They have to manage that. And then if you try on top of this to make structural changes that somebody else is demanding,
Mm-hmm.
it's really impossible. Maybe some of the changes that they want to make, I mean, I think when they look at managing their economic slowdown, these things that Lighthizer and Navarro are asking for are really not the things that they want to do. They want to reduce bad loans. They want to try to stop stimulating the economy with infrastructure investment and try to move up the value chain of manufacturing. And those are things they need to do for their own adjustment. None of the stuff that Lighthizer wants to do is what Xi Jinping and Li Keqiang really kind of need to do.
Mm-hmm.
So, and even if, and I don't think the United States has enough leverage to force them to do it, but if the United States did have that much leverage, I don't even think that they would be able to, at this point, sort of reduce the role of state-owned enterprises or stop competing on robotics and digital chips and things like that. So it's hopeless, in my opinion.
Mm.
It will never happen. Would there be a phase two, something that Trump calls phase two? I guess there will be, and the Chinese will continue to come to meetings and continue to explain that they can't do those things. And so maybe, but the Chinese are always willing to commit to buy more soybeans. So I suppose the phase two could be, we're going to buy even more soybeans and eat more bean curd and
I see. Bean curds are great.
not get enough bean curd. We're going to have more mapo tofu. Every Chinese person will eat mapo tofu for 3 meals a day. In fact, we not only buy the bean curd, but the pork bellies, because we need pork, so they can add more pork into the thing because they have trouble with their pig farm.
I see.
It's ridiculous. It's just a joke. It's so ridiculous what Trump, it's so you can call it a phase two, but that's stupid.
I see. So, we all have lots of frustrations with Trump. But, among the Democratic candidates, do you see sort of a better option who can, take on Trump, do the damage control, and get us back on the right track, so to speak?
I mean, there are some of the Democratic candidates that I personally like a lot, but I don't think that's important for your readers, what my personal thing. But what I have noticed, however, is that so far in the Democratic campaign, the China issue has not been talked about a lot.
So that's actually a little surprising. You would think that, it's an election year, everybody's going to be doing China bashing, and especially in this atmosphere, China is sort of an easy topic to grab onto. You would think that there should have been more coverage on this campaign trail, right?
Well, and let me say that, therefore, with respect to the issue of China, I don't really know where those candidates stand. So my own personal preference wouldn't be determined solely by their China strategy, but right now we don't know what their I assume that any of them would have a better China strategy than Trump. So why China hasn't featured so much in the campaign thus far, I would say, is number one, that's American politics, is that foreign policy is not the main thing usually. Number two, well, I don't know exactly why it is, but, you know, the issue of medical insurance, because Trump, domestic issues, Trump himself has created a focus on domestic issues around Obamacare, immigration, and the tax system. I mean, because Trump's own the vulnerability of Trump in the campaign, if you will, lies in these domestic issues. So the Democrats are banging on those issues, even though Trump has wrecked American foreign policy. But what's even more, in the opinion of the Democratic candidates, what's even more vulnerable for Trump is what he's done in the domestic. So that, and then I think, you know, so they've talked about that a lot more.
I see.
That's probably my explanation. I mean, I'm sort of surprised as well, but I mean, the reason that China figured as prominently as it did in 2016 was really about the TPP. It was about the trade deal. It was about the trade deficit. Okay, so
I see.
it really was a kind of domestic issue that China is, you know, taking our money through a trade deficit, and Trump was the one who emphasized that issue, and the other candidates on both sides, you know, Rubio, the other Republican candidates, and Hillary on the Democratic side, all had to admit that China is stealing our jobs. So in a sort of sense, it was really a domestic issue there, where China became a symbol of the decline of the coal industry, the decline of the steel industry, the decline of manufacturing in the United States was linked to China. And China, but the strategic challenge of China was not really what people talked about in the 2016 campaign.
Great. So, you know, at the end of this conversation, let's just return to Taiwan and talk about what's going to happen to Taiwan. So, Xi Jinping has made unification with Taiwan such a prominent part of his Chinese dream slogan. Do you think he's actually going to do that by force? What will actually happen to Taiwan?
He's not going to invade Taiwan because he doesn't think he needs to do that. And because it would obviously be incredibly risky and dangerous to do so. He's pursuing a political strategy as before, as did, you know, Deng Xiaoping and other, and Jiang and Hu, is to pursue the political strategy, which, to be sure, is extremely difficult because the Taiwanese voters are not easy to influence. But the idea is, you know, use information strategy in Taiwan, use diplomatic isolation, use economic pressure, take advantage of Trump's unreliability to weaken the confidence that Taiwan people have in the United States, keep the military balance tipping, just slowly strangle Taiwan's other options and get more influence, and look for candidates in Taiwan that will understand that Taiwan has no other way out. People like Ma Ying-jeou, for example, who really understood that, you know, Taiwan's prosperity really depends on finding a way to get along with China and again, these guys are historical materialists, right? So they think, okay, you don't like us too much, but actually in the end, money talks. And people are rational and realistic, and eventually Taiwan will see that the United States is useless and your future lies with us. And at that point, when public opinion in Taiwan is sufficiently sort of softened, China can be very generous and make an arrangement like they've always offered, which is one country, two systems.
Gotcha.
And so I think it's not necessary to use military force, in his opinion. Now, whether that estimate is correct, I don't know, but I think he wouldn't want to wreck everything by sort of prematurely using military force when he thinks it's not necessary.